Now we're going back to the issue of alcohol and the impact that it can have on people around the drinker. In a moment, I'll be speaking to Francis Black of the Rise Foundation, which helps families of addicts. But first, our reporter Aisling Riordan went along to the Carmelite Community Centre in Dublin, where Rise is based, and met Kathy Power, who told her how living with a husband with an alcohol addiction had affected her.
If you're in love with an addict, or there's an addict in your family, your son or your brother or whatever, it's a very lonely place to be when you realise that they're developing an addiction. Of course the addict is in denial, and you yourself, you're in denial as well, because you really can't believe that this is happening to you. But the loneliness comes about because there's a breakdown of trust, and you're very helpless in the face of this addiction. You know, a drunken man is no good to you for anything. You can sit at home and worry and wonder where they are. Are they dead in the gutter? Are they in trouble in some way? You can go out, as many spouses of alcoholics do, go out looking for them. And that lonely journey through pubs or driving around their town or village, looking to see can they find them and persuade them to come home. Or you can just sit and wait for the next crisis. And the anxiety that that causes is unbelievable. And then when that person comes home, it isn't as if you can confide in them about the anxiety you've felt. So if you do, it usually ends in a row. And if you don't, it ends up that you are, on the one hand, relieved that they're there and safe, but on the other hand, seething inside and biting your lip. And I think that you know, people in that situation have to realise that they have a right to a life too, that it doesn't all revolve around the addict, and it is possible to have a life for yourself within that situation, and they should go out and seek it.
So how did you get help?
I embarked on the Rise Family Programme in Rathlin Island, and it really changed my life and made me much stronger. And I have to say that that didn't mean that it was what persuaded me to leave my husband, my addict, the alcoholic in my life. I had already left him, but I hadn't left him in my head. And I was still constantly aware of where he was and what he was doing and if he was okay, and constantly being vigilant in the same way as I had been when I was living with him. I'm talking about a man who we all loved very much, but who wasn't violent, and there wasn't any trouble. He wasn't vicious. There was nothing like that about him. But nevertheless, he was just impossible when drunk.
So what advice would you have for people at home watching this and they might feel guilty or responsible for their loved ones who are in addiction?
I had to come to terms with the fact that this was a functioning adult who, although was in the grip of a disease, was also making decisions for himself, and that I just had to continue to exist in that situation. I had to just disassociate myself a little, and that was when I stopped, for instance, running around the town with my children by the hand in and out of pubs looking for him, and just decided if he comes home, he comes home, and if he doesn't, he doesn't. I can't do anything about this. You know, it's a slogan of Al-Anon. You didn't cause it, you can't cure it, and you can't control it.
And how are you doing today?
Well, it's not easy because it's like addiction. It's almost a one day at a time. There are things that happen. I am now separated from my husband, and actually divorced from my husband now, and he's living in another part of the world, so I don't have a lot of contact with him. But I miss the man I married and the man I loved. I don't miss the drunk that I divorced. But something can happen, like quite recently we were clearing out an attic and we found a box of photographs that we'd forgotten existed. And you know, grief can just come up and slap you in the face like that when you see something. It actually took my breath away. Myself and my children stood on a landing flicking through these photographs, and we saw us when they were kids and he was okay and he wasn't looking, he hadn't got that shiny red-faced look of the alcoholic. And you know, for a moment we were all just startled by how it affected us. And that's the sadness, because you lose somebody you love to the awful demon that is addiction.
Kathy Power there speaking to Aisling Riordan. It's amazingly powerful, isn't it, listening to Kathy? I mean, she really spells it out there, what it is.
She is fantastic. Kathy is brilliant at articulating exactly what it was like for her. And the reality is that her husband wasn't and isn't a bad person. he has a problem with alcohol. But because he has the problem, it just means that Kathy had to detach herself. She had to, as she says herself there, she had to work, you know, on that, empowering herself, so as that she could become present to herself, and then she could become present to her children.
And that must be a very difficult thing to do, because I mean, clearly she loved her husband very much.
Absolutely.
He wasn't being abusive, he wasn't violent, but to actually say, right, you know, I'm cutting the tie here, you're on your own with your addiction, I can no longer allow it to pollute the family.
Absolutely. Well, 99% of the family members who come to us in the Rise Foundation love their loved one. It really, I mean, it's like they're grieving for them, because they're watching them go down this terrible road of destruction and maybe even death. So they're heartbroken, and they lose their power also to the addiction, and the stress and the anxiety and even depression. Huge health issues come up for the family member. So we try and support them and try and help them cope with that stress and anxiety, and then we give them the tools on how to deal with it. And sometimes when the family member detaches from their loved one, now I'm not saying that happens all the time, but their loved one will step into recovery, you know,
really,
because of that. When that unhealthy attachment is broken, then they realise, oh, I better start looking after myself now. She's not looking after, or he's not looking after me anymore. You know, I have to, you know, I have to start minding myself, and they'll hit their rock bottom. And now, I'm not saying that happens all the time, Keelin, but it does. There's a high percentage of a chance that it will happen.
And when people do that first, they decide to cut the ties, is there a tremendous guilt that they're leaving them to it? They're not helping anymore. They're not even trying to help anymore.
You know, and it's very difficult for parents. That's very difficult, and we don't ask them to, you know, put them out on the street or do that whole, you know, tough love thing. It's not about that. It's just putting small little boundaries in place that's manageable. That's what's really important. What's manageable for a mother to put, you know, to put a boundary in place. And it might be something as simple as not making the dinner for them, or maybe not doing their washing for them. And not
I have met mothers who go out and buy drugs for their children because they're so badly into addiction. It's that kind of thing that you would say.
It's what's manageable for a parent. And I think that's what's really important. And that in doing that, that's fine, in not doing it in an angry way, to do it in a loving, caring way. But it's very complex. It really is complex. But it's just small little things that family members are able to do to find their own power and to cut that unhealthy attachment that happens when you have somebody that you love with an alcohol.
That you're almost enabling the addiction by minding them through it.
Exactly. It's the addiction you're trying to get to. It's not the person, because, you know, I haven't, in all of my experiences working as a therapist, I haven't met a bad person in addiction. It's only when they're in their addiction that this personality change happens. Now, I've no doubt that there are people out there, you know, who are maybe, but from my experience, I haven't met a bad person. And the family members know that. They love them with their hearts and souls, but they just need guidance and support and kind of the tools to be able to cope with it. Because family members have very high stress-related illnesses, very high.
OK, well, listen, Frances, thanks very much indeed for coming in to talk to us about that this morning.
My pleasure.
Thank you.